How are you?
Good, how are you?
In a different time and place, their friendship may be unlikely. But here, Paddy Durkee and Joe Beshara have a common goal.
I think about the man who came here and cried when he saw what we had done.
This was the first installment.
For several years, they've been working to mount an exhibit highlighting the history of their respective communities in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. One Jewish, one Lebanese, their families have lived here for generations.
So we get to figure out who's who.
It's a story not only of coexistence, but of a long-lasting relationship of mutual respect and support. Minorities living a common experience in a rural town in an increasingly polarized world. And as the tensions in the Middle East draw divisions, Paddy and Joe are coming together. Yarmouth and its maritime history run deep. A long-time fishing community, it was once one of Canada's most prominent ports, and at the turn of the 20th century, immigrants from the Middle East and Europe arrived, including about 35 Jewish and 20 Lebanese families.
Hi, Joe. I'm
Joe
Sabrina.
Beshara is a third-generation Lebanese Canadian.
Thank you for having us.
So I remember having the sense when I was a kid that we didn't, we were accepted in community, but we were different.
They were very poor. They had nothing.
The Besharas were part of those 20 families that arrived in search of a better life.
I haven't seen this one before.
I think for my dad's generation, the name of the game was you could be Lebanese in your house, but as soon as you step out into the street, you're Canadian, right? It's that first generation that I think that took the biggest brunt of the racialization and the discrimination.
Jidi.
That first generation started off selling goods door to door and eventually made enough money to open a store on Main Street. They became part of the fabric of the community. Their neighbors were also merchants, also immigrants.
I grew up listening to lots of stories about the Jewish community, members of the Jewish community that were friends of the Lebanese community. We weren't members of the dominant culture of the day, and I think there was an understanding that in the midst of that difference, we could respect and support one another.
Land deeds were exchanged between Lebanese and Jews, favors extended in times of need.
My grandfather, Wilfred Beshara, was running for town council, and at one point there was some hate mail that was put on windshields of cars around town that basically espoused that a vote for the Beshara was a vote for the Lebanese mafia.
A member of the Jewish community, a lawyer, Irving Pink, offered to help him by seeking justice against the person responsible, pro bono.
Irving said something to the effect of, "Wilfred, if they're coming for you, they'll come for us too."
I'm very proud of my family. I am really proud of my heritage, actually, and to be Jewish.
Paddy Durkee's grandparents also arrived in Yarmouth around the turn of the 20th century.
So this is my grandfather, Sam Lynch, and this is my grandmother, Rose. She was a Green.
They also started as salespeople, eventually establishing one of 5 menswear stores on Main Street, all Jewish-owned.
People just kept arriving because they had family or connections here.
The families weren't immune to anti-Semitism. Paddy's father, seeing a wave of anti-Jewish incidents spread across Canada in 1960, wrote letters of concern to both the Premier and the Prime Minister at the time.
So this is a letter that the Prime Minister, Diefenbaker, wrote to my father, but we never knew. We didn't experience any of this growing up, or I didn't, until now.
Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7th and the spike in anti-Semitism since then isn't something Paddy can ignore. Or Israel's military actions in Lebanon and Gaza that escalated tensions in the region. But here, she feels safe.
I feel that I would have people who would take care of me if anything happened, and particularly the Lebanese people. We just have that connection.
Starting an exhibit highlighting the history of immigration to Yarmouth was Paddy's idea.
This is lobster fishing here and scallop fishing.
Sharing the stories she heard growing up and got reacquainted with when she moved back home after several years in Toronto. feeling a strong connection to the land that drew her grandparents here so many years ago. It made sense to her to start with the first Jewish immigrants to arrive and to weave in those who stood by them all these years. Still in its infancy, the exhibit, which is open to the public in the summer, showcases the stories of 3 families, 1 Lebanese and 2 Jewish.
So this is what my great-grandparents would have used to make their kibbeh in. Kibbeh is a very common traditional dish within Lebanese families.
A display shows the items that were sold in the stores, now shuttered, on Main Street.
Even these wool pants, these were little boys' pants from my father's store, Archie and Duke Ellington.
Photographs, anecdotes, memorabilia,
Somebody found that in the attic.
all woven together by a unique bond that is a point of pride for the people who have brought it to light. One that is relevant now more than ever.
We have set an example for the rest of the world. And it doesn't matter what religion, what color skin you have, what your political background is. We're all just people. We're human beings.
Our world has become so polarized with you need to be on one side or the other. And the work that we're doing here and the gift of this to community and hopefully to anybody that visits it is that it serves as a counter-narrative. There can be peaceful coexistence between cultures.